Hey y'all, I just wanted to pop in here before we get the episode started and let you know that if you're listening to this on the day that it came out, November 4th, 2021, my new single, Stranger Things, comes out tomorrow, November 5th, 2021. I'm so freaking excited. I love this song so much. It's one of my favorite songs I've ever written, and the production is so good. It's like dreamy and country, and it's got like steel guitar and mandolin, but it's like spacey and ethereal. I love this song so much, and it would mean the world to me if you could go give it a listen. You can find it on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you get your music. You can find it there, so please go listen to it. I would love you forever. Thank you
for doing these stranger things, avoiding your eyes in the night like glowing this lonesome game, saying things I don't mean to someone I don't know. I won't be here in the morning. If that's something that you're wanting, you should know. These are just stranger things.
This episode is brought to you by Gold and Ivy. Gold and Ivy is a Nashville soy candle company specializing in creating a calm and intentional home. They've been one of my favorite small businesses in Nashville for a long time, and now you can bring their one-of-a-kind scents right into your own home, no matter where you are. Use my code BOOT15 to get 15% off of your next order. Their fall scents are out now, and honestly, they're all so good. I think my favorite is Gray Flannel, but it's really a close race. Oh, and they also now have room sprays, which I'm very excited about. Free shipping is available on all domestic orders over $75, and if you live in Nashville, you can do free local pickup. Again, use the code BOOT15 at checkout to get 15% off of your next purchase. Visit goldenivy.com today. The CMA Awards are like the country music Oscars, just more rhinestones and boots. My two favorite things. This year's CMA Awards are quickly approaching, so I thought it might be fun if we do a little countdown and I tell you the top 10 most memorable CMA moments. I'm country singer Brent Snyder, and this is Root of the Boot. Okay, so first let me explain what the CMAs are. So the CMA stands for the Country Music Association, and every year they hand out awards for excellence in country music. Now, the first awards were held October 20th, 1967 at the Municipal Auditorium in Nashville. The first hosts were Bobby Gentry and Sonny James, and the first entertainer of the year was Eddie Arnold, and Loretta Lynn and Jack Green won the female and male vocalist awards, respectively. So over its 50-plus year history, the awards have been held at a variety of places like the Ryman Auditorium, the Grand Ole Opry House, Bridgestone Arena, and even the Big Apple. That's right, in 2005, the CMAs were held at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Now, over the years, there's been some pretty amazing hosts like Barbara Mandrell, Mac Davis, Johnny Cash, Reba, and my personal favorites, Brad and Carrie, of course. Okay, let's hop into the countdown. I'm so freaking excited. Y'all know how much I love countdowns. Before I get started, let me just say, these are memorable moments. I'm not saying that I agree with them all. I'm not saying that I want to tell you my opinion on them all or that I'm trying to expose anyone. These are things that happened on national television, and we're just ranking them in order of memorability. Got it? Great. Let's do it. Number 10, Taylor Swift wins Entertainer of the Year. Now, almost half of the moments on my list have something to do with Entertainer of the Year. And why? Well, it's the biggest award that you can win as a country artist. Well, maybe second to being invited to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry, but Entertainer of the Year is such a huge award in country music. It's like the highest thing that you can achieve. All right, so by the CMA's definition, I'm going to read it. The award is for the act displaying the greatest competence in all aspects of the entertainment field. Voters should give consideration not only to recorded performance, but also to the in-person performance, public acceptance, leadership, and overall contribution to country music. I've also heard it described as like, what have you done for country music? Or how have you taken country music to the rest of the world? So in the years leading up to 2009, there wasn't really anybody else doing it quite like Taylor Swift. I mean, she had huge hit singles, huge albums. She had gone mainstream country and pop, and she had crossed over, and she had sort of won the adoration of tons of young fans everywhere. Not to mention she sort of had this squeaky clean image. So she was sort of a darling to win the award. So in 2009, she was nominated for Entertainer of the Year alongside Kenny Chesney, Brad Paisley, George Strait, and Keith Urban. So it's 2009. The end of the award show comes. Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, they come out on stage. They're ready to present Entertainer of the Year. So they announce the nominees. Kenny Chesney, Brad Paisley, George Strait, Taylor Swift, Keith Urban. And the award goes to Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift becomes the youngest person to ever win the CMA for Entertainer of the Year. She was 19. At 19, I was wearing 2 polos at once, popping the collars and thinking that I was changing the world. So, there you go. That night, she also won Female Vocalist of the Year, Album of the Year, and Music Video of the Year. And then in 2011, she went on to win Entertainer of the Year again, becoming only the second woman in history to win that award twice. So the reason that this was a big deal and is at number 10 on my list is because A, youngest person ever to win the award. B, she's one of the very few women to win the award. We'll get to that later. And C, it sort of signaled a new time in country music that country fans were younger than ever. There was sort of this new shift in generation that was coming in that had more of a pop feel. And she was basically taking over the world. So congrats, Tay-Tay. Number 9, Dolly busts her dress. In 1978, Dolly Parton won Entertainer of the Year for the only time, might I add. Shocking, right? She won it once? Huh? Okay, whatever. So she had a very special dress made in case she won the award. But it was tight, and in true Dolly fashion, it hugged the assets, shall we say. So sometime during the show, the dress like pops, like rips down the front, and then she's like, oh God, I kind of hope I don't win now because my dress is busted. So anyways, they announced the winner as Dolly Parton. She's like, well, crap, I got to go on stage. Luckily, Kenny Rogers' then wife, Marianne, was sitting nearby, and she had worn a first stole that night. And so she gave it to Dolly, and Dolly sort of like wrapped it up and put it over the part that was busted. But in true Dolly fashion, she made fun of herself as she accepted the award and said that her dress busted open. And she said that even her dad said that's what you get for putting 50 pounds of mud in a 5-pound bag. Sounds like something my dad would say. But of course, as a society, we love wardrobe malfunction. So, and it's Dolly, so she had to be on the list. Number 8, Alan Jackson avenges George Jones. Okay, so picture it. It's 1999. One of the greatest singers of all time in country music, George Jones, is having this sort of resurgence. I mean, we know George Jones from like the 60s and the 70s and his duets with Tammy, which we're going to get to later this season. But he was having sort of a resurgence in country music. He had this song called Choices, which you may know, and it was climbing the charts and doing really well. It actually won a Grammy. It was even nominated that year at the CMAs for Single of the Year. So he was having a moment. So the CMAs were like, you're a legend. You are having this song that's like climbing up the charts. We'd love for you to come perform. So he's like, cool, great. Well, then the producers say, hey, by the way, we want you to shorten the song and only do like a verse and a chorus. To George Jones, right? Wait. So he was like, no, I'm good. Thanks. I'll stay home. So he like refuses to perform. He refuses to come to the show because it's George Jones. He's a freaking legend. Why would you ask him to sing, to like take a 3-minute song and make it a minute and a half? Just let him have the extra minute. Politics. Anyways. Well, then Alan Jackson, who's arguably like one of the biggest stars at that time, he's having a hit with Papa Top. And so the CMAs ask him to perform as well. They give him the full performance slot. So he's like, okay, I'll do it. But Alan's idol is like George Jones. So he's like kind of ticked off at how they treated him. So he was like, you know what? I'm going to get back at you guys. So he goes on stage to perform. And it's 1999. Did I say that? It's 1999. He goes on stage to perform. And he starts singing Papa Top. Everything's fine. Then he goes into an instrumental break. And he starts singing Choices by George Jones. Well, the crowd and everybody knows what had happened and that George was like, F you, goodbye. And so they're just like going nuts, going crazy. And then Alan just like finishes the song and just like walks off stage. I mean, that's a pretty cool thing to do for your hero. A couple years ago, my friend got me the greatest Christmas gift you could ever get a country music lover. This book. For those listening on the podcast, it's a book. It's called Country Music and Illustrated History. Now, I'm not much of a reader. I typically enjoy podcasts and videos, clearly. But this book is sacred to me. The incredible filmmaker Ken Burns curated this book along with Dayton Duncan, and it contains some of the most amazing images from country music's past and gives a really detailed account of the birth and life of America's favorite music genre. Right now, you can get a huge discount on this book by using the link in the description of the podcast or video that you are consuming right now. This discount is only for a very limited time, and there are not a lot of copies left, so go do it today. It would make the perfect gift for the country music lover in your life. Again, you can only get this discount by using the link in the description of this video or podcast. Number 7, 3 female hosts. Okay, so the year's 2019. And rough year, right? Okay, so there was the hashtag #MeToo movement that had really raised a lot of awareness in the entertainment industry about discrimination and bias against women. And country music was not exempt from that. It has sort of been an unspoken rule in country music that you don't play 2 female artists back to back on the radio, which is insane. And I think some of that still happens now. I don't know. I don't really listen to real radio anymore, but I think that probably still happens. Look, I'm not going to get on a soapbox or get into it. I'm just stating the facts. I'm here to bring you the facts. I'm a responsible journalist. I'm bringing you facts, okay? So we know that women in country music have been very few and far between. If you look at the decades of country music, there are really like a handful of female artists who have really made it big, where there have been plenty of male artists who have skyrocketed to fame and fortune. So in 2019, the CMAs were like, you know what, we're going to recognize this. Women in country music are amazing. They're typically the ones that actually have the biggest crossover success, that have the biggest fan bases, that are able to sell out shows. So God knows why we don't give them more opportunities. So the CMA said, okay, Brad, Carrie, you've been hosting for a long time now. We think it might be time for us to have 3 female hosts. So what do? They get the 3 most iconic female country artists on the planet, Dolly Parton, Reba McEntire, and Carrie Underwood. When I found this out, I think my mind turned into pudding. So anyways, they're going to host the show. And then the opening was this medley of amazing female country music, and all these female stars came back, and it was just like the best moment. Honestly, it was one of the greatest nights of my life because, fun fact, I was actually there that night. I was at Bridgestone Arena at the CMA Awards that night, and it was truly unbelievable. I was wearing the jacket that's right behind me, this gold jacket. If you're listening on the podcast, go look at it. It's a gold jacket. And I had wiggled my way into getting into a box suite. I won't tell you what I had to do to get in there. And so the box suites are sort of in this area that a lot of the stars are in because it's sort of more private. So I'm walking down the hall in the gold jacket, and I passed Kathy Mattea. And she like looked at me straight in the eyes, like into my soul. And she was like, nice jacket. And I have this thing. Okay, I've been in Nashville for like 4 years now, and I've not met a lot of celebrities, but I've been near them. One time I was standing near Emmylou Harris at a fundraiser, and I just kept taking pictures of her back. I'm weird. I don't know what's going on. So anyways, Kathy Mattea passes me, and I have this thing where like I can't say hi to them, and the only way I know to acknowledge them is to sing their songs to them, which can't be fun for them. So she passes me, and she's like, nice jacket. And I'm like, 18 wheels. I mean, This is a public apology to Kathy Mattea. I'm sorry for treating you like that. I also did the same thing to Pam Tillis. I ran into her at a Starbucks one time, like literally ran into her. I was walking out of Starbucks and she was walking in, and I just went, and she looked at me like, are you okay? Do you need me to call 911? Anyways, so number 7, 3 female hosts at the CMAs. It was an amazing night and really said a lot for the industry, I think. Number 6, Beyonce at the CMAs. Can you tell that I love women? Well, sort of. So the year's 2016. It's the 50th anniversary of the CMAs, the 50th year. It's a big year. We all know that there's going to be some huge performances. We're hearing rumblings and rumors that artists who haven't been on the show in forever are coming back, and that there are going to be these crazy performances and collaborations. So it's a big year. So I remember watching the show, and people on the red carpet, like stars on the red carpet, were like, I heard Beyonce's here. I think Beyonce's here. Like, people were freaking out. Like, celebrities were freaking out that Beyonce was going to be there. And I'm like, surely that can't be true. And don't call me Shirley. But then I started to think, okay, well, Beyonce's from the South. She might like country music. She did do that duet that one time with Sugarland on the Grammys. She could be here. I mean, what would she perform? What would she wear? Is she just going to present? Like, I'm going crazy. My mind's running in circles. So then they start promoting it on the show. They're like, and coming up, Beyonce. And everybody's just like freaking out. I remember the internet was like freaking out. So they get on stage, and here she comes singing with the Chicks. Okay, late 90s, early 2000s, Brent is going absolutely insane. Like, I'm having to do like Lamaze, basically, because my brain is melting and coming out of every hole that I have. The Chicks, one of my all-time biggest inspirations. Beyonce, one of my all-time biggest inspirations. And they're going to be on the same stage on my favorite show, my Super Bowl. The CMAs are my Super Bowl. This is absolutely crazy. So they come out and they sing Beyonce's song Daddy Lessons, which is basically a country song in the middle of her Lemonade album. Then they transition into the Chick song, Long Time Gone, and it was just magical and it was amazing. And for me, as someone who loves country music but loves all music, it was so cool to see an artist that I really respect and admire that's sort of like in the pop and hip hop world honor country music in that way by being like, yeah, I'll come to the country music show. Because I think a lot of times, you know, country music gets looked down on, or is like, it's not cool or whatever, because it's not like pop or hip hop music. And so I love when artists that are sort of outside of the genre recognize country music and are like, yeah, I'm a fan. So it was just so cool to see Beyonce there. And I think it's one of my all-time favorite CMA moments. I mean, maybe next time Beyonce sings on the CMAs, it'll be with a certain big foreheaded, animal print loving, dirty blonde male singer. It's me. I'm talking about me. Number 5, Charlie Pride wins Entertainer of the Year. Okay, so we have another Entertainer of the Year moment. In 1971, the CMAs were celebrating its 5th year. So keep in mind, in 1971, it had only been about 7 years since the Civil Rights Act had been passed. So the Civil Rights Act effectively outlawed the discrimination of individuals based on a lot of things, but for this story, it's more importantly race. So it hadn't been that long since the Jim Crow South. And honestly, in the early 70s, the South still wasn't a very safe place for black people. So there was still a lot of segregation, still a lot of violence. So the fact that Charlie Pride, a black country singer, was having such huge success said so much about what was happening in country music and what was happening in our culture. Charlie had become such a popular and integral part of country music. He had released the song Kiss an Angel Goodmorning in 1971. It was a huge hit for him. He'd actually been nominated for Entertainer of the Year 3 other times in 1968, 1969, and 1970. So in 71, he was nominated for Entertainer of the Year and Male Vocalist, and he actually won both. And he became the first black country artist to ever win Entertainer of the Year. Charlie was actually nominated again for Entertainer of the Year in 1972 and 1973, but didn't win. And a black artist hasn't won Entertainer of the Year since. But hopefully that changes soon. Looking at you, Mickey Guyton. Hey! Number 4, Reba's red dress. Now listen, I love fashion, and for up to me, this whole countdown would be about iconic CMA fashion moments. But wait a second, it is up to me. whatever. We'll do that another time. But this is a fashion moment that has made the CMA's most memorable moments. Okay, so it's 1993. Reba McEntire is one of the biggest stars on the planet. She's like Michael Jackson, Madonna level, okay? At least to me, she was. She was like the biggest star to me in 1993. I mean, I wasn't born in 93. Let's go with that. I wasn't even thought of. Okay, yeah, sure. So Does He Love You, her iconic duet with Linda Davis, was released a couple months before the CMAs. So it was time to, promote it on national television. So Reba steps out on the stage and she's in this long red velvet gown and this plunging V-neck that has strategically placed sparkles and gems to, highlight her McIntyres. So Reba said she had actually only had 2 fittings for the dress. And the first time she was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we need some more of them sparkles. And then the second one was in her office or something. So I guess there wasn't really good lighting. So she puts it on that night and she's like, ooh, okay. So she steps out on stage and she hears the crowd go, oh, and she was like, dang, I look good. Reba has often mentioned that her dad asked her backstage if she accidentally wore the dress backwards, which I think is so funny. But she said that the dress did have its benefits. She didn't win any awards that night, but she was on the front page of the papers the next day because she was showing off her McIntyres. Neon Cowboys is a fashion tech brand specializing in Western glowing apparel and accessories. They like to say that their goal is to bring unapologetic joy, acceptance, and pride to those that like to get lost in a good time. Their neon light up apparel promotes this goal by allowing individuals to glow from the inside out. I personally love their neon cowboy hats and their Out Past Midnight boots. They also have these glow in the dark cowboy boots, which are really awesome. You can get 10% off of your purchase by using the code Brent Snyder. So visit neoncowboys.com and use the code Brent Snyder for 10% off of your entire order. Number 3, Loretta Lynn wins Entertainer of the Year. Loretta Lynn broke one of country music's highest glass ceilings when she won Entertainer of the Year at the CMAs in 1972. That year, she was nominated against Merle Haggard, Freddie Hart, Charlie Pride, and Jerry Reed. And she won the award, and she gave kind of a brief acceptance speech where she just thanked everyone for her winning the award and how much it meant to her. And then she said that she wished her husband was there to celebrate with her, but he was hunting. Loretta won the award after a pretty big year for her. I read this and I was like, is this a misprint? In 1972, she had released her 21st album. That seems crazy to me. 21 albums? Jeez Louise. Okay, but anyway, she released her 21st album, and she had huge hits like Coal Miner's Daughter and Don't Come Home and Drinkin' and things like that. But she ended up naming her next album Entertainer of the Year in honor of winning that award. She was nominated for Entertainer of the Year every year from 1971 to 1975, but she only won that one year in 1972, and no woman won again until 1978 when Dolly won. Now, while we're on the topic of women winning Entertainer of the Year, let's talk about the very few women who have actually won that award. So Loretta won in 72, Dolly won in 78. Then in 1980 and 1981, back to back, Barbara Mandrell wins. She was the first woman to win twice. Then we have Reba in 86, Shania in 99, The Chicks in 2000, and then Taylor Swift won in 2009 and 2011, like we already talked about. And that, my friends, is it. No Tammy Wynette, no Judds, no Miranda Lambert, no Carrie Underwood, no female has won that award for 10 years. When you think of the biggest artists in country music, sure, there's some guys that pop into your mind, but two of the biggest artists that you can think of are Miranda Lambert and Carrie Underwood. And when we gave that definition earlier of what Entertainer of the Year is, I'd be daggone if they don't do it. So they're both nominated this year in 2021. My hope is that one of them wins. If you haven't been able to tell by now, I'm a Carrie Underwood freak, so I hope that she wins. I would be just as happy if Miranda wins, but I'm not holding my breath. I don't know when this episode turned into like the feminism of country music episode, but here we are. Okay, I want to admit something. So I had number 2 and number 1 rip roaring and ready to go. I've reread the episode multiple times. I've rehearsed it. And then as I'm sitting here filming it, I'm like, They should be switched. They should be switched. So last minute call, the drama. Last minute call, I'm switching number 2 and number 1. Okay, so number 2 is Charlie Rich, the arsonist. This was number 1, but I'm changing it to number 2. So in an alleged case of they don't deserve it, it's no secret that within country music, there have been a lot of divisions, right? So there's hip hop country and pop country and contemporary country and Americana and folk and bluegrass and like all these different types of country. And everybody has an opinion on what is country music and what is not country music. It's exhausting. I'm not going to give my opinion because honestly, it changes all the time and that's my freaking prerogative. Anyways, in the mid-70s, there seemed to be sort of this surge of pop country. Although if you listen to it now, it's sort of like, yeah, that's definitely country. Although it was kind of like folksy, but it was still country. So you had Dolly, who was getting ready to break into the pop world. You had Kenny Rogers, who was having pop success. And then you had John Denver. Remember him? So John Denver had really broken out on the scene as sort of a pop country artist. Okay, so in 1975... Charlie Rich was tasked with announcing the Entertainer of the Year award at the CMAs. Well, apparently he had broken his foot and he was on painkillers. Not only that, he was boozing backstage, got a little whoo, and comes out on stage and is like kind of swaying and talking gibberish. It's bizarre if you watch it for sure. And so anyways, he like opens the envelope. And he's like, and the CMA Entertainer of the Year is, and he opens it, pulls it out, and then he pulls out a cigarette lighter and lights it on fire. Because he's an arsonist, apparently, now. What a weird thing to do on stage. Anyways, and then he says, my friend John Denver. So, a lot of people took this and ran with it and was like, that's him protesting, like, pop country music. However... he has since, well, I don't know if he said it, but his son definitely said, like, it was just a combination of bad things. He was clearly on drugs and drinking, and, like, it just was a joke gone wrong. So, apparently, they, like, made up, and they were fine. But very weird and very bizarre, and if you watch the video, it's definitely a memorable CMA moment on live television. Okay, like I said, I switched number 2 and number 1. This was number 2, but in the heat of the moment, I have somehow decided that this is number 1. And let's rationalize it for a second. Okay, number 1, Faith Hill's Outburst. Okay, here's why I'm rationalizing it, that it's number 1. At the beginning of this episode, I said, this is my list of memorable moments. So when I'm thinking about the CMAs, I wasn't alive in 1975. I wasn't even alive in 1993, remember? So this is the most memorable moment to me. So that's why it's number 1. Okay. Also, remember at the beginning of the episode when I said these views, I'm just reporting the facts. I'm an impartial journalist here. I'm not here to stir the pot or stir up any drama. That was basically for this moment, okay? We're not rehashing anything. All these things happened on national television. It's my due diligence as an investigative journalist to report on it. That being said, clearly, it's no secret I'm obsessed with Carrie Underwood. She is my idol. She is my number 1. I would lay down my life for her. But also, I love Faith Hill. I mean, some of my fondest memories in the 90s, when I was not alive, was listening to Faith Hill and being obsessed with her too. So, I love them both. But I just have to report the facts, okay? All right, let me set the scene for you. It's 2006. Carrie Underwood won American Idol in 2005. She had released Jesus Take the Wheel. Massive hit. So she's taking country music by storm. Subsequently, I was in college and I was riding around the back roads listening to Carrie Underwood's first album, Some Hearts, and literally I knew how to sing before that, but it really elevated my vocals because I would try and mimic everything that she did. Wait a second. Did I say I was in college in 2006? I meant I was driving around in my little tyke around the neighborhood listening to the Carrie Underwood album because I was in preschool. So like I said, Carrie won American Idol in 2005, and a lot of people in Nashville, there was some rumors and some buzzing going around that she hadn't really paid her dues, which honestly is kind of ridiculous because as someone who's living in Nashville, currently paying their dues, there's no clear-cut way to do it, and there's no like clear-cut avenue to success. I mean, I'm literally sitting here talking about country music history in hopes that you also go stream my music. Please do. It's really good. You should do it. It's fun. All the kids are. So that year, 2006 CMAs, Carrie was nominated for the Horizon Award. That award is now known as the New Artist of the Year. Not shocking. She had success with Jesus Take the Wheel, and she had success with Some Hearts, the album, and she had been touring a little bit. However, it was a little shocking when she was nominated for Female Vocalist of the Year because she was so new to the country music industry. But every single female in that category had a banner year. So let's go through the nominees. There's Gretchen Wilson. She had won Female Vocalist of the year before in 2005 because she had the huge hit Redneck Woman. Then since then, she had released an album that had done really well, and she was touring. She was having a lot of success. So Gretchen Wilson. Then there's Martina McBride, which it's Martina McBride, of course. She's an icon. She's going to be nominated. Then there's Sarah Evans. Now listen, don't get me started on Sarah Evans. I've said for years she's one of the most underrated country artists of all time. She is amazing. She's an amazing writer, and she has an amazing voice. She's funny. She's beautiful. She is an all-around entertainer, and she should have been given more attention in her time than what she was, okay? I even started like a Twitter campaign 3 years ago to try and get her inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, which, by the way, she still has not been inducted in the Grand Ole Opry, which is sacrilege. So let's get Sarah Evans inducted into the Grand Ole Opry, and then me, okay? Call me Opry, let's talk. Anyways, Sarah was nominated because she had released an album, Real Fun Place to Start. The title track from that album had gone #1. It's a great album. You should listen to it. Then we've got Miss Faith Hill. Okay. In 2006, Faith Hill was having an amazing year. So earlier, I believe in late 2005, she released the album Fireflies, which if you haven't listened to that album, it's amazing. You'll know the song Mississippi Girl. That came from that album. I believe Like We Never Loved It All came from that album as well. Anyways, it was an amazing album, and it really kind of marked the return of Faith to country music. So in the early 2000s, she had sort of transitioned into the pop world. She had done some acting and sort of had gone Hollywood. And so when she came back with Fireflies, it was like her re-entry into country music. And she was sort of the darling. And everybody was like, Faith Hill's back. And it was sort of like she's bound to win all these freaking awards because she's back and making amazing music again. So I've set the stage. Before we get into what happened that night, I want to just get back on my feminist country music soapbox real quick and just say how important this category is. Female Vocalist of the Year is very important because traditionally women in country music don't get nominated for a lot of awards. And so this is the category that is theirs. Men cannot compete in this category. So it's all theirs. But that means that there's such tight competition. Things are changing and women are winning and being nominated for a lot more awards now in country music. But this category is always very, very contentious. Got it? Great. So it's 2006. It's the CMAs. It's time to present the Female Vocalist of the Year award. So we're upping the ante by adding some amazing presenters as well. Billy Ray Cyrus and Miley Cyrus, still from the Hannah Montana days. Okay, so they come out and they're announcing the nominees. Okay, so you know how when they're announcing the nominees, there are like those boxes. They show the boxes with their face in it so that you can see their reaction. Okay, so let me set it up for you. So we got the boxes. And Miley is announcing the nominees. So she says, Sarah Evans, Faith Hill, Martina McBride, Carrie Underwood, Gretchen Wilson. Okay, so Gretchen, Carrie, and Martina are all out in the audience. Sarah and Faith are backstage. I believe they had just performed or were getting ready to perform. So cameras are on them. They're announcing the nominees. We know where they are now. So here we go. So Billy Ray opens the envelope. He's taking out the piece of paper, but he's struggling with it. And Miley says, can you open it? It's really funny. Classic Miley Stewart, Hannah Montana. Anyways, so he rips it out and they scream together, Carrie Underwood. All right, so let's talk about all of their reactions. So we have Sarah, who just smiles at the camera and then claps, and then the camera pans off of her pretty quickly. Then we have Martina. Her facial expression doesn't change. She has like a slight smile the whole time. No change in facial expression. She's like, yeah, so what? I won this award more than anybody here, whatever. Then Gretchen Wilson is sort of like joking around with her friend, and she's just like, woo, and claps. Like, she could care less, it seems like. Carrie is like, she seems really shocked. So she like hops up. She's like hugging her friend. She's crying. She's like really happy. Okay. Then we have Faith Hill. Now, this whole thing goes down in like 5 to 6 seconds, but I'm going to dissect every moment for you. So before the winner is announced, Faith can be seen sort of like joking and smiling with evidently like the cameraman, or maybe there was a producer there, someone behind the camera. So she's looking down at the floor when the name is announced. And when Carrie Underwood is announced, she sort of looks up and she kind of has a smile, but it's like her mouth is open and she's like showing her teeth. I don't know if that matters to you or not. And then she sort of throws her hands up like the shrugging emoji, and then she mouths to the camera, "What?" Okay, I'm going to leave you with that for a second. Let's soak that in and process that. Okay. Okay, now that we processed it, that's it. That's the moment. It's burned into people's brain. I had to go to therapy for it. And we don't really know what happened. Okay, so clearly anybody in their right mind would take that as she's pissed. Like, oh crap, she's ticked. She's mad she didn't win. She's mad because, Carrie's a newcomer, or because she hasn't, quote unquote, paid her dues, or this was supposed to be her year, or whatever. And so she's like not happy. That's what it seems like. Okay, but immediately people go on the defensive. So a reporter for Entertainment Weekly was backstage, and he said it was very clear to him that she was just joking around and having fun. Then Faith's manager the next day went on the defensive and was like, I've known Faith for years. She is the nicest, warmest person. To think that she would sort of like undermine or undercut another artist is insane. And then Faith herself said that it's just utterly ridiculous. She would never, undermine another artist. Carrie is extremely talented. She deserves the award. And then apparently like Faith called Carrie and was like, I'm really sorry about this whole thing. Like, I was just joking. And Carrie was like, it's totally fine. I didn't even see it. It's like, whatever, who cares? Well, that's all well and good. But let's talk about the other side. Okay. So as someone who is an avid Carrie Underwood fan, and you're watching that, you're like, she mad. She big mad. Like, she didn't win the award and she's mad. I mean, I think that's what most people would think if you throw your hands up in the air and like angrily scream at the camera, what? Like, you've been in this business for 20 plus years, and you know that you are on camera in front of national TV. You might know how that will be perceived. But in her defense, maybe she was just having fun, and maybe it was an inside joke or something. Because honestly, if she had done that and Martina had won, I think most of us would be like, oh yeah, because we all know that they're like friends. So she's probably just joking. But the fact that it was Carrie and like all the buzz around whether she deserved it or not, it was a whole thing. And honestly, for me, I love both of them. So to me, it felt very much like your two best friends were fighting. And I just couldn't sleep. I lost a lot of sleep. And I had to go to therapy. And it was just not good for me. So I'd like an apology from her. That's not true, actually. Honestly, both Faith Hill and Carrie Underwood could beat me up and tear my limbs off, and I would say thank you. I'm begging for you to harm me in some way. I love you both so much. And I'm just reporting the facts, okay? It happened. I'm not digging up dirt or stirring the pot. I'm just reporting the facts. As a fan of country music and a fan of the CMAs, this was the most memorable thing that I can remember in CMA history. Well, we made it. You have my top 10 CMA memorable moments of all time. What do you guys think? Do you think anything crazy is going to happen this year? Honestly, I think the craziest thing that could happen is that a female could win Entertainer of the Year. Jeez. Okay, so if you haven't realized by now, the CMAs are like my Super Bowl. I go crazy. I go all out. I used to have parties, but I don't really have that many friends that love country music as much as I do now. So I'll just be home watching it with my dog. But I start very early in the day. So if you want to follow my socials, particularly Instagram, that's where I'll be that day, at Brent Steiner Music. I'll probably be posting like my predictions, and then I'll be posting about the red carpet, and then I'll be sort of like live posting all night about what's happening. So come follow me over there. It'll be fun. We can, have our own little virtual party. Come join the family over on my socials. I am at Brent Steiner Music everywhere, and you can follow the show at Root of the Boot. If you're listening to the podcast version of this show and you want to see images, videos, or links to the source material, you can head over to my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Brent Steiner Music, or you can go to our website at rootoftheboot.com. Root of the Boot was created, written, produced, filmed, and recorded by me, Brent Snyder, and is an Exit 200 production, which is an entity of Brent Snyder Enterprises. I'll see y'all next time, and until then, I'll be getting to the root of the boot.